It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, so Matatini is New Zealand's largest kapa haka festival. Hundreds of thousands watch it on the telly, we're told. Tens of thousands turn up and hundreds of thousands watch it online, we're told. It simply wouldn't happen if it wasn't directly funded by the New Zealand taxpayer. Dance on their own 2 feet. And like Trump said to Zelensky, you wouldn't last 2 weeks. Yet the government still has to fend off accusations that it's anti-Māori and that it's racist. Now, if I was a minister in this government, I would stand in front of the cameras every day and debunk this lazy narrative from the media by simply telling the truth, because they refuse to. I urge Christopher Luxon and his ministers to go hunting for their balls. And once they've reattached them, once they find them, reattach them, find a spinal backbone while you're at it and fight your corner. Because if anything debunks these lazy and overused accusations of racism from this government, staunchest critics like the Māori Party and the Greens, then surely Te Matatini, the festival, is the thing that debunks it. I'll show you why shortly, and I'll show you how completely out of her depth and lazy Te Pāti Māori co-leader Debunking has really been. But firstly, why am I doing this? To show the entire picture and to not get caught up in this mainstream media trap which says that Māori are victims, they're poor and broken because we, the colonisers, still deny them and we still don't do enough for them. It's simply lazy from the media, and they're afraid to exit that narrative for fear that they will be called racists. It's so spineless and it's intellectually vacant, actually. So here goes to Matatini. In 1970, the Māori Purposes Fund, this is the board, gave $5,000 to fund the first festival, and Sir Duncan donated the trophy for the winner. In 2004, it became Te Matatini. 2010, international groups started to compete. 2022, funding went from 1.9 million to 2.9 million. This is us 3 years ago. 2023, Labour took it to 34 million over 2 years. It's a massive increase. So it went from 2.9 to $34 million. And in 2024, National took it to 48.7 million over the next 3 years. It's a huge sum of money, more than the Symphony Orchestra. You think I'm targeting Māori? No, it's more than the Symphony Orchestra, more than Royal New Zealand Ballet. It means kapa haka is funded not just at the festival, but all year round, you see. Furthermore, the festival's held once every 2 years. The funding is yearly, you see. So National kept Labour's big increase. So Labour were the first one to put the big increase there. But National, did they get rid of it? No. They kept it. And look at how Debunking, the co-leader of Te Pāti Māori, reacted to National's budget that year, to National's decision to continue with Labour's massive funding increases. Look at this.
I'd just like to ask you, is there anything in this budget that you like?
No.
That's a short answer. Have you been through all the detail? Yeah. There's nothing there?
I've look, between hosting tens of thousands of people across the motu, we've been fed constructively what's going on. I guess now when we've got a budget that seems to be remiss of having the word Māori in any of it, we've got a health budget which doesn't have Māori in it. We've got a budget with whānau ora that has an increase. We've got Matatini that's in fact been cut. So it just seems to be a budget for the privilege and a budget that denies that tangata whenua even exists in Aotearoa.
What a shocker. What a lie, and what an uninformed plonker. It's easy to moan about racism and follow a false narrative, and inaccurate and ill-informed narrative. And people will follow you because you're saying this and you're a leader in the Māori world, so you'll create the next bunch of misinformed activists. It's so dangerous. Yet in reality, if she'd done her homework, stopped, listened, read and learned, she'd say, oh, cool, thank you. But that doesn't suit the angry activist mob baying for blood, does it? I've always said, let the facts tell the story, and emotion will mislead you. As a Pākehā New Zealander, and hopefully I'm speaking on behalf of many, I find it offensive and wholly inaccurate to be labelled racist after decades of throwing billions directly into Māori empowerment, Māori sovereignty, for Māori, by Māori, separate education system, Māori social agencies, trusts, service agencies, marae development funds, treaty settlements, ongoing payments for iwi so they never fall behind other iwi, Māori trust land development funds, Māori broadcasting, Māori TV, Māori news on TV1, hell, Māori focused podcasts and some masquerading as embarrassing propaganda. They all have and continue to receive generous taxpayer support and funds, even when we have no money and we're borrowing to live as a country. This podcast isn't state funded. We haven't asked. We probably wouldn't qualify. We rely on sponsorships, and that's available if you want this podcast to carry on. Please support it, subscribe, sponsor us. But I know podcasts with a Māori focus, run by and owned by Māori, they get hundreds of thousands of dollars every year of taxpayer funding. I know of a podcast series funded directly by the Ministry of Health that focuses on how racist the health system is through the eyes of well-paid, taxpayer-funded Māori public servants and students and professional moaners. One of those, saying how racist our health system is paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to have it to deliver to Māori. So if it's so racist, he's failing in his job and should be sacked. These Māori-focused podcasts would never do what I'm doing today. It's not in their DNA to tell, this side of the story. Yet look at Te Matatini. Decades on, it still relies on the good old Kiwi taxpayer for it to be viable. It doesn't stand on its own 2 feet. Much like the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra. I'm not just targeting Māori. Look at the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, the Royal New Zealand Ballet. Why can't these groups stand on their own 2 feet? Why do we have to fund everything? If it's well supported and if it's well liked and people will pay for it, then surely it survives. But no, it doesn't in this country, you see. So these so-called cultural icons need taxpayer-funded support, and we give them. Now, if this podcast suddenly isn't viable, it dies. I don't get backed by decades of this entitled funding. I just don't get it. Yet these groups have this relationship with government where they get this money. And on to Matatini, despite all the so-called Māori businesses and all the billions to iwi for treaty settlements and all the so-called Māori economy, which is now worth about $70 billion, where are the Māori organisations and businesses sponsoring it? So it's independent from the state. It's so-called independent from the colonisers. Why take colonising money when all you want is ultimate sovereignty? Go and stand on your own 2 feet. Now, I've received an email from somebody who's worked inside the agency that's funded to put on Te Matatini, and that person's urging me to go digging after they saw a number of things that concern them, like nepotism, hiring family members, unnecessary staff travel, business class, premium economy, all that sort of stuff. And they were worried about this because at a time of recession, it didn't seem right, according to this potential whistleblower who's contacted me. In fact, the broadcast contract's never put out to public tender, so other broadcasters are locked out of the process. That's concerning. This potential whistleblower wants an audit. Now, I can't do that, and when so much money is involved, maybe that will happen or needs to happen. And can I suggest that you write to the Auditor General, who usually do these things without fear or favour, and I appreciate you contacting me. For the record, the whistleblower is Māori as well. But I go back to my original point that we Pākehās and this government is somehow racist. With almost $100 million going to Matatini, to the Kapahaka Festival over 5 years, I think those making the claims of racism have forgotten to actually find out the facts. To them, I say, jog on, you're a complete embarrassment.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.